everybody, and welcome back to my Pokemon review series. In this episode, I'm going to be going over two Pokemon, actually, not just one. This is my first time landing on a split evolution line, so I kind of want to go over both of them. I don't know if this is going to be the way that I handle split evolutions in the future. It probably will be for whenever there's only two. However, Eevee, I think, is going to be its own beast when I get around to it, because there are just so many different branching evolutions. But as for the Slowking and the Slowbro, I think it's enough that I can handle them in one video. So, now, something interesting about the Slowking and the Slowbro, before I really get into them. So they're both skills Pokemon, and they're both snoozing. There's something interesting right off the bat with them being snoozing. The Slowpoke line is the only one that is a water type and is snoozing for some reason. I don't know what the reasoning for that is, but I don't know, theorize down in the comments or something why the Slowpoke line snoozes instead of slumbers like the rest of the water types. Anyway, they're interesting in the fact that they are the only branching evolution that has the same main skill for both ways you can go with it. Now, typically speaking, I think that this game isn't going to have a single skills or a single branching evolution where they don't have the skills specialty. I think the skills specialty works particularly nice for branching evolutions just because you can just give them different main skills like they've done with Gardevoir, Gallade, like they've done with the evolutions, so that you can make each one unique in its own way. Meanwhile, doing that with Berry and Ingredient Specialist, the only real way that you could do that would be to fundamentally alter something like their ingredient list or their berry type. I guess you could do it with Berry Specialists if they have a different berry type. Like if they had done Gardevoir, Gallade, if they were Berry Specialists and Gardevoir was Psychic type and Gallade was Berry type, that would make a unique usage for both of them. But I think generally speaking, they want to stick to the skill specialty for branching evolutions. And the Slow Twins are a weird example where they still make them unique despite having the same skill. Now, the differences lie in these two numbers and the speed. Now, they're both tremendously slow, as you would expect from Pokemon bearing their names. Slowpoke and Slowbro don't really imply that they're going to have a lot of speed. Slowking is at 56 minutes and 40 seconds, and Slowbro is at 1 hour and 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Those are both tremendously slow. They're not going to be giving you very much in terms of berries. Now, where they differ is that Slowking is definitely a skills specialist. He's got a skills proc rate of 7.4%, which is very respectable. That's a pretty high skill proc rate. And Slowbro has a 6.8% skill proc rate. Now, they both have decent skill proc rates, but remember, that's riding off the back of a really low speed for the both of them. So if we're to come through here and instead of doing ingredient count, we do expected skill count for daily, and we look at the Slowbro, he procs 3.5 times a day roughly, while the Slowking, if I can find it. Wait, I don't have it set to just skill specialist. Game in it. This will make things easier. So the Slowbro procs about 3.5 times a day, while the Slowking procs 4 times a day. 4.05 times a day. So the Slowking procs the skill a decent amount more. And given that it's a skill specialist, that's generally what you'd probably prefer. You'd probably prefer more skill procs. However, there's something interesting with the skill that they're procking. It's the Energizing Cheer main skill, which is just kind of a weaker version of Energy for Everyone. Overall, this skill is kind of flawed in how it works. It gives a flat amount to one Pokemon on the team, and it favors, as of a not recent update, it was a balance update a while ago, it's it like 50% of the time will proc on whichever member of the team has the lowest amount of energy, which I think was a very much so needed change for this skill, because before that point, you would never even consider this skill over energy for everyone. Nowadays, it's a bit more reasonable, but it still has some RNG issues because it's only about half the time that it procs on the Pokemon you want it to, on the one with the lowest energy. So, and the procs are just ginormous. If it procs on the highest energy Pokemon, let's say it procs on someone who's at 100% energy, one proc is giving them 50.6 energy. Well, they can only gain 50, so you're already immediately losing energy value off of the skill. So, it's definitely the weaker form of energy recovery for healer Pokemon. However, generally speaking, I tend to think of if you have 2 of these Pokemon on a team, it basically equates to the reliability of having one energy for everyone Pokemon, just because they do proc at a higher rate. If we go back to here and look at the daily expected output of the Gardevoir, you can see it's 3.3. That's lower than the Slowbro, which is the worst version of the Slow Twins. However, it's just such a stronger skill that it makes up for that. So, now, but why would you ever run 2 Pokemon to fill that healer role when you can just run 1? I mean, role compression, it helps in making stronger teams because then you can run better Pokemon that are good at doing other things. Now, the biggest reason why is because of their typing. They're both water type, and you could easily run them alongside Suicune. Now, Suicune is water type, so running a Slowking and a Slowbro gets you that value of basically having an energy for everyone healer on the team by proccing a bunch of this energizing cheer without actually running the energy for everyone healer. I think that as of right now, the only reasonable full mono-type team in the game is a Suicune-based one that runs a Slowking and a Slowbro, at least for fully evolved Pokemon. There are ways to use that strategy as well, but I mean, like, in general usage, I think there's something you can do here with them. I still don't think it's necessarily meta relevant, but I think it could be interesting, and I think it's especially good for farming up tails. Now, I'd be remiss to talk about the Slowking, the Slow Twin line, and not talk about their tails. So, Slowpoke tails, if you don't know, are the strongest ingredient in the game. They have a base value that is almost double some of the, like, it's almost double the second value one, which is leaks. It's like 180 versus like 350 something. It's absurd how valuable these tails are. The thing is, since they're not ingredient specialists, they don't have particularly large procs of this, and there's a Pokemon Ditto that at level 60 actually produces more tails than what these guys can output. But these guys, they do have a pretty low, or actually kind of scarily low ingredient proc rate, especially with such a low speed. You're not getting that many tails off of them, unfortunately. But tails are a really niche thing in that you can stockpile them up. They don't take up that much inventory space because their value is in their value, not in how many you're getting of them. So if you run these guys for like a week or so, or even 2 weeks, you can stockpile just a boatload of tails and then have a really, really strong week where you're making some of the best meals in the game. I mean, this grilled tail curry only takes 8 tails, but it's got a value of 7,483. Now, the corn keema curry is almost double that, but you're doing this in only 33 ingredients, which is less than half the ingredients. You have a lot more space for filler then, which can make your meals even much, much stronger. The Slowpoke tail pepper salad goes up to 8,000. That's also tremendously strong, especially with only 35 ingredients. It's just so dense in terms of ingredient value. So, now, another big question is, why would I ever want the Slowking over the why would I ever want the Slowbro over the Slowking? Well, first off, they buff Suicune by having one of each because they're considered different species for Suicune's skill. But the reason why you might want Slowbro is because it does have a higher ingredient rate So much so that if you look at the ingredient output of the Slowbro compared to the Slowking, you can see that it is ever so slightly higher. I know that some players really like to look for an ingredient-focused Slowpoke and basically treat Slowbro as if it is an ingredient specialist. I don't think that's necessarily the right way to go. I think if you have one that's a bit more ingredient-focused than others, then you might go with the Slowbro line or route instead of the Slowking. But ultimately, it is a skill specialist first and foremost, so you shouldn't be investing in one if it's just got ingredient finding stats. You still want something for skill triggers because that is what it is best at. Even if it is the better at ingredients of the two, you still want that energy recovery first and foremost. But where it's really interesting is if you were to run Slowbro, Slowking, Vaporeon, Suicune as a 4 Pokemon team, and then the 5th Pokemon, just some other water type. It could be the Golduck. It could be most likely you'll be doing the Feraligatr just because it's the strongest. Then, or the Quagsire if you want to stockpile ingredients. Then ultimately you're going to be gaining a boatload of strong ingredients because these guys, yeah, they're slow, but Suicune's skill doesn't care about speed. It creates a flat number of procs with every time that it triggers, which is going to get you quite a few tails. Additionally, Vaporeon having the main skill, being the best at the main skill of Ingredient Magnet S, the Vaporeon is going to be pulling in a decent amount of tails on top of that. So, I think as of right now, if you want to collect a lot of tails in 1 week, that really is the best meta option for that. I wouldn't recommend running it for an event week. For a week, you're looking for strong Snorlax power, or Snorlax strength. But I think there's some interesting potential here with the Slow Twins. Overall, they don't have the best metagrade. Now, if you're looking at their ingredients list, I really recommend having the ABB list, just because those tails are very sought after, very rare. In fact, it's the only time that I actually say that this could be a deal breaker on a skills specialist. Typically speaking, we don't care about the ingredients list on skills specialists, but the slow twins are weird. Especially on the Slowbro, you want double Slowpoke tail for sure. Now there isn't any synergy with the Slowpoke tail and the Cacao. Likewise, I believe there's no synergy with the Cacao and the Tomato. But the same thing is true for the Tomato and the Cacao, because the only things that work with tails are herbs and oil. That doesn't really matter though, because there's nothing else. There are like no other options for Slowpoke tails. So, aside from Ditto, who does have the oil, Ditto is the better option for that. In fact, maybe if you wanted to replace the Feraligatr in that last slot on the team of 5 for tail production, you can make the argument for replacing it with a Ditto, because Ditto is another producer that is rather slow and has the tail proc, and actually will be looking for ingredient finder subskills, so that would produce quite a few tails as well. But overall, I think the biggest idea with the Slowbro and the Slowking is just making that team for tails. And maybe there's something with just a water team in general on Cyan, having the 2 that are water type and cover the, like if you have Berry Finding S on them with the Suicune as well. If you have 2 Slow Twins, both with Berry Finding S, a Feraligatr with Berry Finding S, a Vaporeon with Berry Finding S, and then a Suicune, that also has a lot of potential with berry output. I don't know if it competes with just running a full berry team, 4 berry finders, or a full ingredient team making the strongest meals, but it's just interesting to think about. So, as for where they spawn, Slowking only exists at Cyan Beach. Slowpoke, on the other hand, exists at pretty much every island except for Top. And Slowbro is usually where the Slowpoke is. Yeah, every island except for Top. So, if you want to hunt these guys, which I do recommend hunting as a Slowpoke, not as Slowking or Slowbro, then I recommend pretty much you can go anywhere. But if you need the candies, then go to Cyan Beach specifically. Something else to mention is that evolution. It might be a good idea to early on, if you're a pretty new player, if you catch a Slowbro or you catch a Slowpoke that has the level 30 tail, it can be a good idea that even if it's got the most garbage stats in the world, just power level it to level 30 if you got the candies, just to unlock the tail, because then you can start getting it in your ingredient tickets, and you can start getting it with your ingredient magnet Pokemon, especially if you find that you use the Vaporeon a lot. Then having that unlocked will boost the value of the Vaporeon just by collecting some tails in the mix. So there's a lot to be considered with this Pokemon. It's very weird. I don't even know where I would rank it, honestly. And as for evolution methods, it takes level 28 for the Slowbro, which is just before they unlock tails. So, and for the Slowking, it takes a King's Rock and a Linking Cord at any level. A Linking Cord, basically a non-item. Like, you get so many of those just from friend level ups. You should have 50 of them if you don't use them. However, I recommend using some of them for candy because you'll never need 50 Linking Cords for evolution. And then the King's Rock, I think there's a badge that rewards one, but I think it's a pretty late game badge because I honestly don't think I've acquired it yet. I might have one in my bag, I don't know. But otherwise it's 1,400 sleep points. That is a pretty hefty expense. But if you get one for free somehow, then it's a pretty easy evolution. It does take twice as many candies to evolve the Slowking. So if you're going to do the idea of just getting a single tail to unlock it, honestly, maybe don't even evolve it. You may just hold on to it and just make it a Slowpoke that's level 30. But it's interesting. And one of the Pokemon that continues to confuse me, and I don't really know what I'm looking for in them either. They're just weird. Anyway, I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.